Dubai has been called the eighth wonder of the world, a city that shouldn't exist in the middle of a desert, yet here it stands, gleaming towers that touch the clouds, supercars lined up on streets like they're nothing, yachts worth more than entire apartment buildings. Everything about Dubai screams luxury, excess, and impossible wealth. When you see the images online, when you watch the videos, when you scroll through social media, it all looks like a dream, a place where anything is possible, a destination that has somehow managed to defy all logical expectations about what a city can become in such a short amount of time. But here's what the Instagram photos won't show you. Here's what the luxury travel blogs don't want you to know. The average person visiting Dubai or moving there for the first time, they're completely unprepared for the reality that's waiting for them. They see the headline numbers and think one thing. They arrive and discover something completely different. They see the glittering surface and believe everything beneath it is equally golden. Then the surface cracks, and they see what's actually holding this city together underneath all that shining glass. Today, I'm going to show you the actual truth about living in Dubai. Not the fantasy version from the travel influencers, not the polished version from the real estate agents, not the carefully curated stories from people who've already made it. The real story, the one that changes everything you think you know about this city. The one that nobody wants to talk about because it ruins the magic. The one that explains why some people are living incredible lives here, while others are trapped in cycles of debt and desperation. Before we dive in, if you want to understand how the world's wealthiest people actually live, work, and build their empires in places like Dubai, make sure you subscribe. I cover these hidden realities about wealth, opportunity, and how systems actually work every single week. This channel is all about peeling back the layers of the stories we're told and showing you what's really happening behind closed doors. Now, let's get into this story properly. Dubai didn't exist as a city 100 years ago. It was a small trading port with maybe a few thousand people scattered across sand and salt marshes. The Dubai of the early 1900s was a place of extreme hardship. Pearls were the main export back then. Divers would go down into the water for minutes at a time without proper equipment, diving to dangerous depths to find pearls. The work was brutal and dangerous. Many divers died doing this. The pay was minimal. Most people were just trying to survive to see the next day. The most remarkable thing about Dubai in 1950 wasn't how impressive it was how utterly unremarkable it seemed. Nobody was talking about Dubai. Nobody thought Dubai would become anything special. It was just another trading post in a desert. Just another place where people tried to survive in an inhospitable environment where the heat was crushing and the opportunities were limited. People lived in simple structures made of palm fronds and stone. They drank salt water and ate fish. Life was difficult in ways that modern people can barely comprehend. Then, something shifted. Oil was discovered beneath the sand. Money started flowing into the region. But oil wasn't really Dubai's real advantage. The real advantage was vision. Something different. Something that most people in that region couldn't see or wouldn't pursue because it seemed too risky. The rulers of Dubai looked at their limited oil reserves and realized something that almost nobody else understood at that time. They realized that oil was temporary, finite. It would run out eventually. But tourism, business, finance, real estate, these things could last forever if you built them right. They realized that if they built it, people would come. They didn't just want to be rich, they wanted to be legendary. They wanted to build something that would last centuries, so they started building. They built airports before they had enough flights to fill them. They built hotels before they had enough tourists to stay in them. They built infrastructure that seemed completely insane at the time. A city designed for 10 million people when only 1 million lived there. A port that was bigger than necessary. Roads that went nowhere yet. Highways connecting empty spaces. It looked like madness. It looked like gambling with billions of dollars that they might never recover. It looked like the worst financial decision any government had ever made. Except it worked. It actually worked. Over the span of just 3 decades, Dubai transformed from a desert town into a global metropolitan center, a place where people from all over the world came to make their fortunes, where fortunes could be made faster than anywhere else on Earth, where the rules seemed different, where possibilities seemed unlimited. It became proof that sometimes the biggest gambles pay off in the biggest ways possible. By 2024, Dubai had become one of the most visited cities in the world. It was attracting nearly 20 million tourists every single year. People came for the beaches, they came for the shopping, they came for the spectacle of it all. They came to see the tallest building in the world. They came to visit the artificial islands built in the shape of palms. They came to witness the impossible made real. But increasingly, people started coming for something else entirely. They started coming to live there permanently, to build careers, to make money, to escape whatever situations they were trapped in back home, to chase the dream that had been sold to them through years of marketing and word of mouth. Here's where the story gets interesting, and also where it gets uncomfortable. Dubai positioned itself very deliberately as the city of unlimited opportunity. Every government advertisement, every piece of marketing material, every story spread by word of mouth was the same message. Come to Dubai, make your fortune, build your dream life. The rules are different here. You can do things here that you couldn't do anywhere else. We don't have the limitations that other countries have. We reward hard work. We reward ambition. We reward people who are willing to take risks and sacrifice everything for success. And for certain people, this was absolutely true. If you had capital, if you had skills that were in demand, if you had connections or a business idea that actually worked, Dubai became a playground, a sandbox where the normal rules didn't apply. You could build wealth faster in Dubai than in most places because the tax environment was different. There was no income tax for many years. The regulatory environment was looser. The opportunities seemed endless. If you were already successful somewhere else and you wanted to level up, Dubai was the place to do it. The problem was, what happened to the other 95% of people who came with dreams but without significant capital or rare skills? These were the people who heard the Dubai promise and believed it would apply to them. These were ordinary people with ordinary skills and ordinary ambitions. People like Hassan, who left Pakistan to work construction. People like Maria, who came from Brazil to work as a nanny. People like Ahmad, who traveled from Egypt to try to start his own business. People like Priya, who came from India hoping to work in hospitality and eventually open her own restaurant. They all came with the same belief. In Dubai, anything is possible. They would work hard, they would save money, they would climb the ladder. Within a few years, they'd be successful. They'd have their own business. They'd be wealthy. They'd send money back home to their families. They'd be able to tell their families back home that they'd made it. This was the dream that had been sold to them. This was the promise that had convinced them to leave everything familiar and move to a desert city where they didn't know anybody. What they discovered when they actually arrived was something completely different from what they'd imagined. The dream was real for some people, that part was true, but the dream required things that most people didn't have. It required either enormous capital from the start, or incredibly rare and valuable skills, or both. Without those things, what awaited wasn't opportunity. It was a different kind of trap altogether. A trap that looked like opportunity while it was closing around them. Let's talk about what it actually costs to live in Dubai. This is where the story gets brutal and where the marketing completely falls apart. If you believe the hype, if you believe the marketing, if you believe the images you see online, Dubai sounds like an affordable destination. You can get a beautiful apartment for cheap. You can go out to restaurants for reasonable prices. The cost of living is low. The local news promotes Dubai as a budget-friendly destination. Travel blogs write about the affordable accommodation options. Budget airline advertising suggests you can live cheaply in Dubai. None of this is actually true. Dubai has one of the highest costs of living in the entire world. It ranks higher than New York City in most categories. It's more expensive than London. It's more expensive than Singapore. It's more expensive than Tokyo in many aspects. And yet, the average salary for most of the working population is lower than you would earn in those cities. This is the contradiction that nobody talks about. An apartment in a decent neighborhood that's not falling apart costs at least 1,500 to 2,000 dirhams per month. That's about $400 to $550 per month. Just for housing. If you want something nice, something that doesn't have issues with mold or plumbing or just general dilapidation, you're paying 3,000 to 4,000 dirhams or more. That's $800 to $1,100 minimum for a one-bedroom apartment. In a building that's not in the best area, this is the baseline. This is what you're starting with before you buy food, before you pay for transportation, before you spend money on anything else. And this is assuming you can find something at this price. The market is competitive, and landlords know people need housing, so they can ask for higher prices. Food is expensive in ways that will shock you. Groceries cost about 40% more than they do in America. A head of lettuce costs $2. A gallon of milk costs $4. A dozen eggs might cost $5 or $6. Going out to eat is even more of a shock to the system. A basic meal at a restaurant costs about 50 to 80 dirhams. That's $14 to $22. For lunch, for one meal, a meal that would cost $7 in most places costs twice that in Dubai. You quickly learn not to eat out. You quickly learn that restaurants are not for you. They're for tourists and the wealthy. You learn to cook at home. You learn to buy in bulk at discount stores. You learn to stretch every dirham as far as it will go. Utilities are cheap, which is one of the few things that's actually affordable. Your electricity bill might be only $50 to $100 per month because the government subsidizes it heavily for residents. During the summer, when air conditioning runs constantly to keep buildings survivable, it might go higher, but it's still manageable compared to other cities. But that savings disappears the moment you add up everything else. You save $30 on electricity and then spend triple that on groceries that week. You save on utilities and lose it all on rent. It's a game where the numbers never add up in your favor. Transportation costs money and adds up quickly. Taxis are metered and expensive. The metro exists but doesn't go everywhere you need to go. It's useful for going to work if you're lucky enough to live near a station, but most daily errands require other transportation. If you want to own a car, you're dealing with expensive car purchases, expensive insurance, expensive parking, and expensive fuel. It's financially impossible for most workers. Most people take taxis or use apps like Uber, which works but adds up quickly if you're doing it every single day. You might spend $5 to $10 just getting to work and back. That's $50 to $100 per week. $400 to $500 per month, just to get back and forth to your job. Now here's the critical part that nobody talks about. The critical part that makes the entire system work the way it does. The critical part that reveals what's really happening. The salaries don't match the cost of living for most people. They don't come close, not even a little bit close. If you're a construction worker in Dubai, you might make 1,500 to 2,500 dirhams per month. That's $400 to $680 per month. Your rent alone is already more than half of that before you've bought a single piece of food. Maybe you're splitting an apartment with 7 other people to make it work financially. You're in a studio the size of a closet, maybe 8 feet by 10 feet. You're sharing it with people you've never met before. You came from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or the Philippines. You don't speak their language, they don't speak yours. But you need the apartment and they need the projector money. So here you are. You're using the bathroom on a schedule. There's a line. people are waiting. If you're working as a domestic worker, a nanny or housekeeper, you might make 1,000 to 1,500 dirhams per month. That's about $270 to $400 for an entire month of work, for 30 days of work, for the labor of your body and your time. Your rent is already more than your income. That's not sustainable. That's not livable. That's a mathematical impossibility. That's where the system gets genuinely dark. People working in Dubai are often living in situations that would be illegal in most Western countries and would spark outrage if the truth was visible. Multiple families crammed into small apartments, workers sharing beds in shifts so that 5 or 6 people can take turns using the same bed during different times of day. 12 people living in a space designed for 4 people. Bathrooms that are barely functional, windows that don't open. No privacy, no space to yourself, no dignity. And even with all of this crowding, even with this level of sacrifice and degradation, they're going into debt. They're borrowing money from friends or family back home. They're taking loans at high interest rates from unregulated lenders who know they're desperate. They're caught in a cycle that seems impossible to escape from. The trap has closed and they're inside it. The reason people stay in this situation is the kafala system. This is the sponsorship system that ties workers to their employers. It's a system that's been in place for decades. It's a system that most people in the West have never heard of. When you come to Dubai to work, you don't just get a job. You get bonded to a specific employer. Your visa is tied to that employer. Your legal status in the white country is tied to that employer. Your ability to live in Dubai is completely dependent on continuing to work for that employer. This creates a power dynamic that's incredibly unbalanced and fundamentally unfair. Your employer knows that you can't just quit and get another job like you could in other countries. If you leave your employer without permission, you become illegal instantly. You become subject to deportation. Your visa is cancelled. Your residency is revoked. Everything falls apart immediately. Everything you worked for is gone. Because of this system, employers can pay whatever they want to pay. They can demand whatever hours they want to demand. They can change the terms of employment whenever they want to change them. And the worker has almost no recourse, no protection, no safety net. You can't just leave. You can't file a complaint with labor authorities because you might get deported. You can't go to the media because you might get deported. You can't talk to journalists or documentary filmmakers because you might get deported. You're trapped. The system makes sure you're trapped. This has led to documented cases of wage theft, of workers not getting paid at all for months, of working conditions that are genuinely dangerous. There have been investigations into construction sites in Dubai where workers didn't have proper safety equipment, where people were dying from heat exhaustion, where medical care wasn't being provided. And because of the kafala system, the workers had to choose between suffering in silence or being deported. The government has made some reforms to this system over the years. They've created new regulations. They've attempted to enforce labor standards, but enforcement has been weak, and the fundamental power dynamic remains unchanged. This system also creates another dynamic that doesn't get talked about enough. Because workers are so desperate not to lose their jobs, they're willing to accept situations that are completely unsustainable. They're willing to work 60-hour weeks. They're willing to work in conditions that are genuinely dangerous. They're willing to send their entire paycheck home to their families and live on next to nothing themselves. Dubai's growth has required constant influx of workers from countries where the cost of living is significantly lower, where people are desperate enough to accept wages that would be unthinkable in their home countries. Workers from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, the Philippines, Indonesia. People from countries where earning $1,000 per month would be genuinely life-changing. That income in Dubai isn't enough to cover basic living costs, but to someone from those countries, it still feels like an opportunity. it still feels like hope. This creates a constant cycle that perpetuates itself. Workers come with dreams, work for a few years, don't make the fortune they dreamed of, and eventually leave. They're replaced by new workers with the same dreams and the same hopes. This project, the city keeps growing, the construction keeps happening, the towers keep getting taller, more neighborhoods are built, more projects start. The system keeps extracting value from those at the bottom, while creating wealth for those at the top. Given all of this, you might wonder how hundreds of thousands of people actually survive in Dubai. How do they not just completely give up and go home? The answer is that most of them develop what you might call survival strategies. These are ways of living that aren't shown in the tourist videos or the real estate marketing materials. These are adaptations that people make when the official economy doesn't work for them. First, there's the sharing strategy. Multiple families or multiple individuals band together and share housing. 8 people in a 2-bedroom apartment means the per-person cost drops significantly. It's crowded and uncomfortable, but it's survival. The government technically restricts this practice, but enforcement is minimal because everyone benefits. Landlords know this is happening. They're okay with it because it means the building is occupied and money is coming in every month. Everyone's willing to overlook it because the alternative is empty apartments and no income. Second, there's the subsistence spending strategy. This is where you cut every possible expense. You don't eat out, you don't go shopping for leisure, you don't have entertainment budget, you buy the cheapest groceries at the cheapest stores. You walk or use the metro instead of taxis. You own nothing beyond what fits in a small room. Your wardrobe is 5 shirts, 2 pants, 1 pair of shoes. Your life becomes completely focused on surviving until your next paycheck. You're not living, you're existing, you're enduring. The goal is just to get through each month with money left over to send home. Third, there's the temporary strategy. People come to Dubai with the explicit plan to work for a few years, save whatever they can, and leave. They sacrifice years of their life to try to accumulate savings. During this time, they're not really living, they're existing, they're enduring. They send money home to family, and that's where the real benefit is felt. The worker themselves isn't getting wealthy, but their family back home might be able to afford better housing, education, medical care. It's generational sacrifice. The parent works in Dubai for 5 years, so their children can go to better schools. It's brutal, but it's the math. Fourth, there's the entrepreneurial strategy. Some people work their regular job and then do side hustles. They drive for Uber during off hours. They sell things online. They do freelance work on platforms where anyone in the world can compete. They're working 16-hour days, but they're trying to create multiple income streams to climb out of poverty. Some of them actually succeed. They build small businesses. They create passive income streams. They eventually reach a point where they have money. Most of them just stay tired. They work hard for years and end up with nothing to show for it except exhaustion. Fifth, and this is the one that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, there's the informal economy strategy. This is where people are doing cash work, under-the-table work, work that's not registered or taxed. There are entire communities of people in Dubai who aren't officially employed at all. They're making money through networks and informal arrangements. Some of this is legal, some of it definitely isn't. But it exists because the formal economy doesn't provide enough opportunity or income for everyone. When the system doesn't work for you, people create alternatives. What's interesting is that Dubai's growth has actually made some of this easier in recent years. As the city has expanded, as more job opportunities have emerged, as technology has made it easier to work remotely or freelance, more people have found ways to make it work. Some of them are actually building genuine wealth. Some of them are starting businesses. Some of them are doing remote work for companies outside of Dubai while living on a fraction of what those jobs would cost in their home country. The person with tech skills can work for an American company for $300 per day and live like a wealthy person in Dubai. The person without those skills is still making minimum wage and struggling. The city that was built on the promise of making everyone wealthy has, paradoxically, become more possible for people who already have resources or skills to leverage. The construction worker is still trapped. The nanny is still trapped. But the person with a degree, with tech skills, with the ability to work remotely, with existing capital they brought from home, they might actually be able to build something meaningful. By 2024, Dubai had become something different than what it was in the early 2000s. It's still growing. New neighborhoods are being developed. New skyscrapers are being built. It's still attracting wealth and investment from all over the world. Billionaires are still buying property. Corporations are still setting up headquarters. It's still building new projects. But the original promise, the idea that Dubai was a place where anyone could arrive and build a fortune, that myth has been thoroughly shattered. The dream is dead for most people. It just hasn't stopped being sold. What Dubai is now is a city for a specific kind of person. If you're wealthy, if you have a valuable skill set, if you're willing to work for a major corporation, if you have education and credentials, Dubai can be genuinely good. You can live a comfortable life. You can make money. You can experience luxury. You can access experiences that would cost twice as much back home. You can have a great standard of living. The ultra-wealthy live here and experience a completely different city than everyone else. But if you're coming with the dream of arriving poor and leaving rich, Dubai is a trap disguised as an opportunity. It's a beautiful trap. It looks like freedom. It looks like possibility. It looks like the answer to your problems. But it's designed to extract value from you, not to give you the opportunity to build wealth. The math doesn't work for most people. The salary is too low. The cost of living is too high. The system is too stacked against you. The fastest growing rich city in the world wasn't built by making everyone rich. It wasn't built by lifting up the masses. It was built by making a few people extraordinarily rich while extracting wealth from millions of others. It was built on the labor of people who were desperate and willing to accept impossible conditions. And that's the truth about Dubai that nobody wants to admit. That's the secret at the heart of this glittering city. What's changed in recent years is that more people have become aware of this reality. The internet has exposed the truth. Stories have gotten out, videos have gone viral, documentaries have been made and released globally. The image control isn't as tight as it once was. The veil has been lifted. People coming to Dubai now often come with more realistic expectations. They're more likely to understand what they're getting into. They've read the stories. They know the risks. And because of that, some of them make better decisions. Some of them decide not to come at all. Some of them demand better treatment from employers. Some of them start actual businesses instead of just working jobs. Some of them find ways to make it work within the system. The city is slowly changing, though the fundamental system remains in place. The kafala system still exists in various forms. The power imbalance still exists between rich and poor, between employers and workers. The exploitation still happens. But there's more visibility now. There's more resistance. There are more people aware of what's actually happening behind the glamorous facade of towers and yachts and luxury resorts. So that's the story of Dubai, the tower of ambition built on the foundation of exploitation. The dream that works for some and destroys others. The city that's still growing, still attracting dreamers, still promising impossible things to people who are desperate enough to believe. The city that proves you can build anything if you have enough money and enough people willing to work for wages they can't live on. If you're thinking about moving to Dubai, if you're considering it, now you know what you're actually getting into. If you want to understand how cities like this actually function, how wealth is really built in these systems, how opportunity is really distributed, how systems trap people and extract value, subscribe. I explore these hidden realities every single week on this channel. I tell stories about the world that other people won't talk about. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.